What is going on, everybody? I know my internet might be giving me some issues right now, so bear with me if I'm glitching in and out here. Hope everybody's having a great Sunday, man. Another 49ers W. Uh, a game that was a little bit interesting and hairy, to say the least, from the start. But the 49ers found a way to get it done in the end. First, before we get into any of that, I just want to ask Amin how he's doing, because it's been a while since we and him have collaborated. So how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Obviously, finals are over. Winter break begins. Yesterday was the first day. No, to this weekend, and Monday's actually the first day of winter break. But finally had a busy last couple of weeks with finals, tests, projects. So finally, winter break is here, and a couple of weeks from now, the Niners will be in the playoffs. We'll be witnessing the first Niners playoff game. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, it's been interesting because it's like I've been in and out of work for the last couple of weeks. So seems like time and everything just kind of floods together, this time of year with the weather getting the way that it is. But I guess the best part about it, though, is the 49ers are continuing to win. And whatever deal you're having to deal with school, any of the stresses and the just I don't want to be there feeling, at least you have a weekend to where you can look forward to the 49ers putting up another dub, keeping the streak going. I think that's 7 or 8 straight wins. The Niners have been magnificent. They found different ways to win. Everybody keeps saying that, Brock Purdy hasn't done this yet or that yet, and he hasn't shown that he can do this, that, and the other. And so far, he's passed every test imaginable. So,
And I remember a couple of weeks ago, I think when we last collaborated before the Dolphins game, or I think when the Niners were on their bye week, we had this segment where we said, what's your record prediction for the rest of the games? And I was very unoptimistic, and I've never been so glad to be wrong in my entire life, because ever since I was like, they're gonna lose to the Dolphins, I don't know about Tampa Bay game. I don't know if they can get that one. The Niners have won out since then, so I've never been so glad to be wrong in my entire life. And the Niners have won 8 in a row. I mean, it feels great, baby. Like Jimmy Garoppolo says, it feels great.
Yeah, the Niners have like you're exactly the same as me. Like I looked at certain teams and I'm like, oh, it's a bad matchup. Not quite sure how that's going to work. Dolphins got this, that, and the other. They got speed. Tampa's got Brady, and the Niners have passed every single test imaginable so far. I'm just right now. My whole thing is getting to the playoffs as healthy as possible, and my thing is that once the seeding is locked up and nothing can be changed, I want to see how the Niners kind of play that way. I want to see the reaction to that. Part of me wants it to come down to the end where we have a chance in the last game to get the 2 seed, but at the same time, I'm a little bit like, at what cost? And does it matter in the end? So the Niners today, it was an interesting game. Like me and you were saying off screen, it was a little defense looked a little shaky. The offense did their part, especially in the second half of the game. So, win's a win. I think we're getting spoiled with this defense that they're going to have a shout out every single week. And that's definitely not the case. Other people get paid too, not just the 49ers. So the Niners, did what they had to do. They defended their home turf, and I was happy with the outcome. You, I was trying to say, I don't know. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, actually, I was going to ask the chat how they're doing, to be perfectly honest with you. I was forgetting what I was going to ask, and then I realized that I wasn't going to ask anything. I just wanted to say hi to everybody, everybody who decided to come in here with the holiday tomorrow. I just want to say thank you. We got Raphael 562, Beto wishing everybody a happy Christmas. Same thing with the Raphael. Shifty. Oh, I almost said Shifty. Beto in here again. Damian Lee, another supporter of the stream. And Javier Rios wishing everybody a Merry Christmas. Yeah, it was tough getting someone to come on with me, even if it was just going to be kind of a relaxed post game. And I keep forgetting, like, oh yeah, tomorrow's Christmas. Everybody is, going to be with family and this, that, and the other. So definitely appreciate you coming through. Brock Purdy played solid. Shaky first half, but he played solid. He was 15 to 22, two touch. I forgot to put how many yards he got, but he was 15 to 22. He had 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. I forgot to put down how many yards he actually threw to, but
234.
234. I forgot to put it down. I mean, the defense played well in the first half, the Commanders. So I was pleasantly surprised to see the adjustment, not only with the 49ers offense, but with him himself. A lot of people were saying this might be the game where he cracks. And they came out with a pretty, they played the run really well, and they were kind of forcing the Niners to do things. And with the pass game, the Niners were definitely passing the ball more than I would say that they usually do early on in a game. But he played well. What did you think of Brock Purdy's first and second half, and just the overall kind of the arc of the game for him?
I mean, obviously, first half he started off slow. The offense, in general, started off slow, only putting up 7 points up on the board. And the first half, it was kind of the story of the defense again. The defense doing their thing, making the stop on 4th and goal. So it was basically the story of the defense, how the defense was dominating in the first half, and they were having a strong first half. And Brock Purdy kind of was shaky a little bit in the first half, and the offense as a whole was shaky in the first half. And then fast forward to the second half, I mean, Brock Purdy gets things going. He has that pass to George Kittle. And that interception that he threw, I mean, that's on Juwan Jennings. I don't even, I get it. It's a quarterback stat. It'll go on Purdy's, stat list, but that wasn't Purdy's fault at all, right? That was, Juwan Jennings bobbling up the ball, threw it up, and that was picked off by the defender. But overall, I thought Purdy had a good game, right? Had a decent completion percentage. Now, this definitely wasn't his best game. The offense definitely started off slow early on, but Purdy did what we needed him to do, right? Be a good game manager, make smart decisions, get the ball to your playmakers, and he did that. And that's all you need from Purdy, and that's all you need from Purdy, whether, for the remainder of the regular season, when the playoffs start. That's all you need from Purdy, is just to get the ball to your playmakers, make good decisions, make the right decisions, and the defense, if they can continue doing what they do, we have a pretty good shot at, winning the NFC West and winning the NFC and making it to the Super Bowl. And Purdy was able to do that again. So it wasn't obviously his best game that we've seen so far from Brock Purdy, but Purdy had some nice throws like the one to Kittle. Purdy did the play action game with Purdy, and in a way, I feel like Purdy's unlocking, George Kittle in the passing game, because you saw that, you've seen that with Nick Mullins in the past, you've seen that with CJ Beathard in the past, and now with Brock Purdy, who's your third string. I mean, with him and, getting the ball to George Kittle, we saw it in the Seattle game. We see it now. Brock Purdy's getting the ball to George Kittle, and George Kittle's having monstrous games where he's putting up, getting 6-7 targets, having 100+ yards, putting up touchdowns. I mean, Purdy has really unlocked and has been giving Kittle the ball and has been feeding Kittle the ball. And you kind of see Kittle getting involved more in the passing game now that Purdy's in at quarterback. So Purdy has been doing a phenomenal job so far, and I just hope he can continue doing that for the remainder of the regular season and as the playoffs continue and as the playoffs begin.
Yeah, former Niners great DB Eric Davis tried to blame Purdy on the throw, and that throw was not a perfect throw, but by any means do I blame him. I blame the receiver the whole way.
Yeah.
That ball was in on his hands and he tipped it like that. You either just drop it or let it go behind you, or, I mean, the whole tip, to the defender, that was all on the receiver. So I don't know what sometimes people see or what narratives they're trying to push while they're on social media during games. But I thought Purdy played well. I thought he was going to get tested. And somebody made a good point, oh, he's struggling. Hello, he's a third string quarterback. Wow, did you think he was going to play perfect forever? I mean, the guy's is what he is. And considering he is what he is, he's playing pretty well. And those 2 touchdowns to George Kittle, man, he doesn't have the biggest arm, but that was some of those throws, man, were he's surprised me a little bit with a little bit of his arm strength, considering, we're so, of the mindset that he's got a really weak arm. And it takes a lot for him to make throws. It takes his whole body. He's just a smaller guy. But yeah, that one touchdown to deep over the middle to Kittle was beautiful. And Yeah, I thought he played solid. I thought he played really well. I thought he adjusted. The one thing about him that I like is he doesn't make game-changing errors. Like he'll take a sack, he'll dirt ball something if it's not open. I told my brother, I was like, man, that's so refreshing to see because we're getting getting the conversation of, well, Jimmy's boot is off. Could be back at the end of the season, possibly. What should the 49ers do? And I can't for the life of me understand why people continue to try to push this Jimmy Garoppolo and, if he's if he's healthy, he's the starter. No, you stick with what's gotten you. You stick what's working. I don't see any possibility that Jimmy Garoppolo comes back unless Brock Purdy gets hurt. I feel way more comfortable with Purdy than I do with Jimmy Garoppolo, and I know that's a really short amount of work, but I don't know. There's just a calming sense and a relaxed feeling that I get watching him play. Terradome just put this on the chat. He said Brock Purdy had a 158.8 passer rate in the second half. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
There was one particular throw early on in the game by Purdy that I loved, and it wasn't something phenomenal. It wasn't anything special, but it was the first play of the game, and I think the Washington defense brought blitz, and I think it was Purdy threw like the sidearm pass. I think it was to Brandon Ayuk for a 9-yard gain right off the bat, and the defender was in his face, and he instantly went and he hit it, and he picked up 9 yards, and like little things like that from Purdy. Where I'm like, all right, Purdy, like that's great. And when you look at Jimmy Garoppolo has had a better season, but little things like that where I'm like, all right, yeah, like Jimmy Garoppolo most likely would have taken a sack. Now, has he been better this year? Sure, but like when you can make things like that, when you can process things that fast, and you can make, you can get the ball out that quickly and pick up yardage on that play, while other quarterbacks, that we've had, like Nick Mullins and other quarterbacks that we've had in the past, or a lot of quarterbacks in the league might have taken a sack on that play. If you can pick up yards, like little things like that, where I'm like, all right, Purdy, like that's great. And Purdy, it's not like Purdy has been making, good, the deep pass to Kittle, or he has made some spectacular throws in every single game that he's played so far. But the thing that makes Purdy so good, and what really how this offense has been looking the last couple of weeks, is Purdy gets the ball to his playmakers, finds the open guy, and is accurate with his passes, right? And then occasionally you'll see that one deep shot where you're like, wow, right? And the reason why it's so wow is because as Niners fans, we don't get to see that often. We saw that a little bit with Trey Lance last year, and then we saw it in the preseason with Trey Lance again. But with Jimmy, you don't really get that element. So when you see Purdy do that, you're like, wow. And then on top of that, Purdy's making good decisions, and he's accurate, and he's finding the open guy and just making smart decisions. And he's just executing this offense so well and executing what Shanahan wants him to do. So Purdy has been really great really great so far. And I mean, I just hope they can continue doing this in the playoffs.
Terradome made a good point because I was just thinking the same thing. He said one could make the argument that two of Brock Purdy's best plays were the pirouette throwaway. Yep. I know exactly what you're talking about. And then when he took the sack rather than force the pick. Yeah. He had in the second one, he had Juwan Jennings. I don't know if he was doing like an out or something, and he just didn't have the ability to throw it. So instead of trying to force it or, put an errant throw up there, he took the sack. And then the pirouette where he did that little, I call it the whirling dervish, like kept spinning and then got rid of it. It's the things sometimes that you don't do in a game that make all the difference. Sentinel says that pirouette was prime Russell. He does have a little bit of a Russell Wilson in a very, very small, compact little version. He's a little guy. But yeah, he's fun to watch, man. He takes chances, but at the same time, he's not careless. You know what I mean? He'll put the ball in a tight window, but yet he's not forcing it into coverage. It's kind of this weird dichotomy. I don't know. I feel really comfortable with him. I saw some silly business by people that tweet that say that the Niners will not win a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy. I think sometimes people just tweet things for attention. Ladies or guys, if you guys know who I'm talking about, you know exactly what I'm who I'm getting at. But she likes to stir the pot with the whole Jimmy Garoppolo thing, and she loves Jimmy. And it's just so tiring sometimes because I nobody's thinking about him right now. Like he's not relevant. We're winning with Brock. Stop putting all this Jimmy Garoppolo crap on my timeline, trying to talk a narrative or force a narrative. I saw something last week where somebody said something along the lines of the way that the Niners are running their offense with Brock Purdy is exactly why the Niners were interested in drafting Mac Jones. And I'm just like, why? Why do you have to stick the little narrative in there, the little side thing, and ruin a good thing because you have to say your piece and be right about something just because maybe you're down on Trey Lance and you want to go against the grain with all the thinking of everybody else, so you're always kind of the opposite of everybody else's opinion. But
That's
yeah,
my
like
issue. You could finish it. But that's my issue with the whole Mac Jones thing. Is that if you were sitting at 12 and you didn't trade up, and Mac Jones falls to 12, and you decide to draft Mac Jones, that's fine. But when you trade 2 first-round picks and your pick that year, and you decide to trade up, you're not trading for Mac Jones. Like you're not trading all that draft capital for a guy that has such a low ceiling, and that what you got in college is probably similar of what you're gonna get in the NFL, similar production of what you're gonna get in the NFL, depending on what team he goes to, right? So like, if you're the Niners and you traded up that much, why would they draft Mac Jones? You draft a guy like Trey Lance. You draft a guy like Justin Fields, who potentially, if everything goes right and you expect this kid to become what you think he will become a top 10 quarterback in the league and will be your franchise guy for the next 10 to 15 years. That's what you do. With the way that the Niners did it was right.
you
And
got to
now
go with the direction of the league. The
yeah,
league has got all these dynamic quarterbacks
exactly.
who not only can move but they can throw. And you're going to stand pat and draft the same thing that you already have in Garoppolo.
Yeah, just
Like,
younger, less injury prone. That's
to
it.
me, the other thing too is that the other argument or the line of thinking that people always have to bang the drum with is, what are we going to do next year? Is Jimmy Garoppolo going to be re-signed? What do we do with Trey Lance and Brock Purdy? How about we enjoy this year and everything that's going on, and we worry about next year, and worry about the future later? We have this great season that we're having right now, regardless of how it ends. I don't know if the Niners can beat the Eagles or the Vikings. I don't know. Listen, and I'm going to say this, and please don't hate me. My view is that the Niners maybe lose in the conference championship game this year. That's where my mind is. When you just look at I'm not saying that they can't not beat the other teams out there, but you just look at sometimes the matchups and you say, hey, can the 49ers hang with these guys? And if there's question then in your mind, then maybe there's a chance they don't. But we haven't even gotten to that point yet. We still have a chance at the 2 seed, in some weird, miraculous way, the 1 seed, but I don't think that's going to happen. And people are always talking about the future and stuff that's not significant to the current situation. This team's 11-4. They play the Raiders, who are an inconsistent mess. And then they played the Cardinals. So there's a good chance this Niners team could be 12-4. So I'm still trying to live within the now. But some people, just like I said, they have narratives to push, so they're constantly trying to stir the pot, and it works because guys like me get really caught up in it and start talking about it. So I don't know. Do you really care about anything in the future, or are you just kind of focused on the here and now yourself too?
I mean, I'm obviously focused on here and now. You can't really worry about, the future hypotheticals. Now, but if I was the Niners, here's how I would play it, though. If I was the Niners, depending on how Purdy does for the rest of the season, depending on what Purdy does for the playoffs, you bring back Trey Lance, obviously, right?
Absolutely.
That's absolutely right. And I would let them battle it out in camp, and whoever does better in camp, depending on what Purdy does in the playoffs, like let's say Purdy, let's say hypothetically, right? If everything goes right, Purdy wins the Super Bowl, right? Purdy brings us the 6th championship. Purdy's your QB1 going into camp. He's your QB1 going into camp. And I can understand that. Some people might hate me for that, right? He's your quarterback 1 going into camp. Him and Trey Lance battle it out. Whoever has the better training camp, you get in the starting spot. That's the way I would play it, right? Because if Purdy does win a Super Bowl and he continues to do what he's been able to do so far, I mean, you kind of, I feel like Purdy does kind of deserve a shot. Even though you gave up so much for Trey Lance, I mean, if Purdy does, does well and continues to do well, I do think Purdy deserves an opportunity. And Purdy does get a chance to compete for that spot in training camp, and so does Trey Lance next year. And whoever wins that quarterback battle and whoever has a better training camp gets to end up starting week 1, and then you could make the change depending on how they play for the rest of the season. That's the way I would play it. If I was the 49ers personally, that's the way that I would play it.
Football's a meritocracy, man. It's all about who gives you the best chance to win.
Yeah.
As much as I would hate to see Trey Lance have to fight for the starting job again, I mean, if Brock Purdy does really well, and like you said, he either wins as a championships or gets us damn close, then you make them compete for it in camp. You just don't outright hand the job to Lance. Maybe Lance needs that. Maybe like Grant Cohen's saying, and maybe it's the best for both guys because it's going to bring the best out of Trey Lance too. Because he's going to be like, this 7th round mofo is going to try to beat me out for my job. Oh, hell no. So we might see a different level of Trey Lance, a more focused, on his P's and Q's, just a different player. And I just, at this point, I think we've made it clear that we don't need Jimmy, that we have 2 capable quarterbacks, and that Jimmy is an afterthought. So, yeah, Jimmy could come back this year and be the backup down the stretch, but that's exactly where he needs to stay. Backup. This is Purdy's job until the Niners don't have any more games to play. And that's the last thing I'm going to say about that, because talking about it anymore, it'll make me angry and it's redundant. So let's talk about Kittle. Back-to-back games with multiple touchdowns. Today he was 6 catches, 120 yards. Looked like the old Kittle. Who knew, right? I said, and I've been quoted as saying, I thought he lost a step. And I am so wrong. And it really has to do with the quarterback. It doesn't have to do with the player himself. So I take it back. I stand corrected. I'm okay to be wrong. Kittle's not broken. He's not a bust. He's not over the hill. He just has a quarterback now that goes through his progressions and is patient, waits for routes to develop, and throws them open. And Kittle does what he does best in the open field. He bodies people. That's all the weight room, all that stuff you do in the offseason. That's why Kittle in the open field is just a different player. I still personally think Kelsey's the best just because Kelsey performs consistently all the time. And you could say, well, he has whoever at quarterback, but I'm not saying it like Kittle's bad or he's not great. If you look at it, just a body of work, the numbers that Kelsey's put up could end up being Hall of Fame worthy. So, but that's not to say that Kittle can't have a reemergence in the next couple of years and then get right back into the conversation. But like a lot of it has to do with the quarterback, and the Niners have had some pretty up and down quarterback play with Jimmy Garoppolo. And for a guy that doesn't have much of an arm, man, he really uncorked one on that one touchdown. What's your overall feeling on Kittle? Were you of the mindset that maybe he had lost a step, or were you thinking it was the quarterback?
I thought it was the quarterback and the way that he was being utilized early on in the season, because the way that he was being utilized primarily was as a blocker early on in the season, right? And now with Brock Purdy coming in, you've seen it the last 2 games. Purdy had 90, George Kittle had 93 yards last game, 2 touchdowns. This game he has 100 plus yards and 2 touchdowns. Purdy's getting the ball to George Kittle. He's feeding George Kittle the football. And it's not that George Kittle lost a step. I think it was because the way that George Kittle was being utilized early on, and because McGlinchey obviously was struggling in the way that he was being utilized, as a 6th offensive lineman in a way, that impacted, George Kittle's involvement in the passing game. And now you look at with Brock Purdy, George Kittle doesn't need to be utilized like that, because Brock Purdy, you saw it today, that one play, pressure got to him, did that little prime Russell Wilson, pirouette, and threw the ball out of bounds. You don't need him to do that. because you already know Purdy can get rid of the ball. He can, run around a little bit. So you don't need him to be your sixth offensive lineman. So now George Kittle's getting involved more in the pass game. And now you see it with the right quarterback in Brock Purdy, who's feeding in the football. George Kittle is still as dominant of a tight end. Now, I definitely agree with you. And I would still say Travis Kelce is the best tight end in the NFL only because of consistency. Because of
Yes. And he
consistently
doesn't, and
being
he's not
able,
hurt as much.
he's not hurt as much, but consistently being able to do it, consistently be able to dominate football games and have, great seasons consistently is the only slight edge that I would give to, Travis Kelce and say that's the reason why he's the best tight end. But, pure talent wise, right? Like just talent, right? I would say Kelsey is definitely a better, pass catcher, but George Kittle does way more than Kelsey in the sense of, being a blocker. And when he needs to be a pass catcher or when, the right quarterback gets in the football, he could do that as well. So Kittle is definitely more skilled, but because Kelsey has been more consistent and has had more consistent good years where he's put up good numbers comparatively to Kittle, I would say Travis Kelce is definitely the better tight end and the best tight end in the NFL right now.
Yeah. Oh, hold on a sec. How is my internet? Copy.
It's fine. I don't know about the chat, but it's fine for me. I don't know about the chat though.
Yeah, to me, Kittle is like I feel like he's been reborn with Brock Purdy, but I just think Brock Purdy sees the field better than Jimmy Garoppolo, and I don't know exactly why. I mean, they both played college ball. I would assume. I don't know how many years Garoppolo played if he played all 4 years, but I don't know. I think Brock's more cerebral. Brock's like this like little miniature version of like a Russell Wilson or like a Patrick Mahomes, like a little like a dollar store version of the really great quarterbacks. He's got a little bit of their talent, a little bit of their moxie, their mobility. He might not have it all on a consistent basis, or he doesn't have the electric arm that can make all the throws. But I think I just think the reason that Kittle's getting the ball more is I just think he sees the field better. So I'm at the point now where Raphael 562 asked, do you think he breaks the 280? Needs 280 yards to break 1K. I think he comes up just a little short. I want to say that he will, but I mean, we could be wrong. Raphael, he could have like a 200 yard game in the next game, but yeah, you feed him the ball and you until the other team figures out a way to stop him. I mean, the Niners could have Debo back next week. And, Ayuk played pretty well today. 5 catches for, I don't know, like 80 something yards, I think he had. Sucks that he got caught from behind. He just doesn't quite have that breakaway speed. Ayuk. He's really, really athletic and fast, but he lacks that second gear to be able to get down the field. He doesn't have that Justin Jefferson type speed, but yeah, I thought Kittle played well. I thought Kittle was effective. He's still one of the best blocking tight ends in the NFL. And it's just nice to see him back and involved. I really actually thought he had kind of lost a step. So to fact that he did what he did today, the last couple of weeks really shut me up. Somebody in the chat says it takes a real man to admit that I was wrong. Oh, I'm totally.
And I was about to say, I respect you so much for that because there's a lot of people that either would not mention that they were wrong or that would have just been like, yeah, I didn't doubt Kittle the whole time. But for you to say, you know what, be accountable and said that you might have been wrong about Kittle, I respect that so much.
He likes my rotating helmet. Thank you
very
much.
I love it also. The basement is dope. I said it before a couple of
you guys like my on-air light there? Yeah, I had to buy it.
The basement is great. I love the basement.
I've been trying to add as much crap into the background so you guys could stop thinking that it's a basement and you'll be like, oh, it's just a little like corner man cave thing. It's a basement. I have a wood burning stove here. I have the door to the laundry over here. And over here is like my TV's over here. The bar is over here. It's like a half small basement. It's like because I live on a split level house. I have like a small basement, then a first level, then a kitchen, living room, and then up to the bedrooms. It's not a super big house, but it whatever. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate you guys. I try. That's what I'm going to ask the chat this. And it's a light chat tonight. We don't have a ton of people in here, as I figured it would be on a Sunday. But for all you who are in here, thank you. does the ambiance or the setup or the equipment and things that people put into their stream, does it matter to you as a viewer if somebody's, sitting on a couch in front of a bare wall with a bad microphone, or are you guys just honestly you listen just for the sake of listening? I just want to know as a person, because I think it matters sometimes. Like if I go to a stream who's got a nice audio setup and the visual is good and they got nice, I'm drawn to it personally. So I just want to know as a consumer. Terradome says presentation is everything. Cool, because there's people that have really nice setups. There you go, Raphael 562. Presentation matters. Yeah, I feel like if you've been on YouTube for a while, especially if you're a streamer that has been on for quite a bit, and you have a decent amount of subs, I think you owe it to your audience to kind of upgrade as you go. You know what I mean? Sometimes I see people who have like the best setup and it's just like, wow, and they put so much into it. And then there's people who have absolutely just, like an old couch in a or a ceiling fan in the background, but they have a ton of people watching their stream. So it's kind of hard to figure out if it matters or not. But I think it does personally for me, for my mind's eye. So just random thing in my brain. Let's talk about the defense. A little shaky today. Not quite the defense we were expecting to see. I thought they made plays when they needed to, but I felt, and I'm going to say this, I feel like the pass rush is like Bosa or bust right now. I want to see more from everybody else. I feel like Bosa is kind of like the saving grace on almost every pass play. I want to see other people start to get in there. Now, guys might be playing really good, like an Armstead, or Kinlaw might have had a solid game. But as far as like constant pressure, I thought some of it was the Niners defensive backs, and I thought some of it was just a lack of, he had so much time to throw. What was your overall kind of look at the defense today?
The defense is human. You're not going to get a phenomenal game from the defense every single game. You're not going to get, the defense allowing no points in the second half every single game. The defense is human. They are going to have games where they're not as great as they usually are. They're going to have games where they struggle at times. The defense did still have, 2 clutch plays in that 4th and 1 stop in the second half. The 4th and goal stop. Obviously, the Jimmy Ward interception. They still had a good game. But it's not what we've seen this whole entire season, right? When you look at this season, the Niners defense has been so dominant and obviously allowing only 7 points or shutting out opposing offenses in the second half. It wasn't as great. But did the Niners defense still, I think, do a good job and make plays when it matters? They did that. They made the stop on the 4th and goal. They made the stop on the 4th and 1. They got the interception. They still made plays when it mattered. Now, was it their best game? Obviously, no, it wasn't their best game. Did they struggle at times? Yes, they did. Did Talanoa Hufanga, I will say, man, Talanoa Hufanga did not have one of his best games today. He definitely struggled today after the Pro Bowl, obviously getting nodded to the Pro Bowl, getting, into the Pro Bowl. Not the best game, but, he's young. He'll make mistakes, obviously. He's definitely been better than a lot of us expected coming into this year. But this defense is human. They made plays when it mattered. It wasn't their best game of the season. I think they'll bounce back, but, the defense made plays when it mattered, and that's all that matters to me.
Terradome thinks that the Niners, he said that they're like Huey Lewis in the News. That's a band from the 80s. Huey Lewis was the front man, and the News was the surrounding chorus. It's kind of been a one-man show. I want to see, guys have gotten close, and guys have been productive. The run defense has been stellar. They played really well. The linebackers play really well. But secondary's been a little suspect. Some of it is the coverage, but I think a lot of it has to do with just the lack of rush on a consistent basis. We get close, but we don't get home. Or it's literally Bosa and nobody else. I want to see... I want to see the sacks. I got to take a look at the sacks across the board to see what everybody else has, because I know Bosa's got like what 17 and a half.
17 and a half.
Like,
If he doesn't win Defensive Player of the Year this year, I don't know what to say.
yeah, let's talk about that for a sec. What is up? Can we stop with Micah Parsons, please? Can we stop, please? I'm just sick of hearing about it. I swear to God, if he gets the Defensive Player in the Year, then you know it was predetermined, or like they were going to give it to him regardless. Bosa has made so many game-changing, altering, tilting plays where the Niners are kind of, right here, teetering, not necessarily playing bad, but, the game could go either way. And then Bosa makes a huge play. He did it again today. Two sacks. He's got 17 and a half on the season. I hope he gets the record. He needs 2 to tie Alden Smith. I wish other people were getting involved and playing better, because then other guys' doing a good job would make his job easier. So we'll see, man. We go against Derek Carr. He's been kind of hot and cold. So maybe he'll give us a couple, but just being erratic.
The Niners are 6th in sacks this year.
Yeah, and 17 and a half of them come from Bosa.
So the Eagles have 61. Patriots have 50 this year. Dallas has 49. Part of that is Micah. Kansas City has more than us. Baltimore has more than us. And the Niners have 41 sacks in the season. And 17 and a half of those are from Nick Bosa.
Yeah, it's we talk about it during the preseason and stuff about how good the Niners rush could be, but the Niners rush has been a little bit missing in action at times, other than Bosa. They talk about how great our defense is, and they're fantastic. But I think good teams will take advantage of no rush, and I think that's what happened. If you watch the Kansas City game, we didn't get near Patrick Mahomes in that game, not a bit. They took Bosa's aggressive nature and used it against him in that game. Throwing screens at him and running plays right at him. And any smart team with a good offense coordinator is going to do the same thing. So, Anthony 49ers Faithful says they're saving it for the playoffs. Is that smart to do, though? I'm not like downing you. I'm not being like on you, Anthony. I'm just saying, is that smart to do, though? Like, can you turn it on, turn it off like a switch, or should you just play hard all the time? And, because I feel like sometimes if that is the case and guys are kind of maybe playing half energy or 3/4 energy, it's a little dangerous, because then it's like, can they turn it on when the playoffs start? So, but maybe you're right. Maybe guys are saving themselves and they're going to go balls to the wall when the playoffs happens. But hey, we're in the dance. We get at least one playoff game at home. Got to just keep watching those Minnesota Vikings, man. They've been giving us all this excitement, the possibility of getting that number 2 seed, and for some reason they play down to their competition for 55 minutes of the game, and then at the end
I was so pissed. I was so pissed that Colts game. You have no idea. I 1 second I see them up 30-0. I turn off the TV. I'm like, this game's over. I come back. Like, I check the fourth quarter. I check the score. I'm like, they tied the game. How? Like, how do you let that happen? You were up 30. How?
That's a good question. How is the understatement of the year? How can you be up 33 points and not in a game?
I can understand. Like, even then, realistically and logically, like if it was like the Chiefs and you were up 30 on the Chiefs and the Chiefs came back, I'd be like, all right, you have Patrick Mahomes. I can realistically see that. But Kirk Cousins, you let Kirk Cousins come back down 30? The Vikings? Come on.
Let's one of the things that I thought was a little shaky today was the 3rd and long defense, with the just not being able to get off the field. The secondary just looked really bad at times, just like allowing long developing plays to happen. And again, that comes back to the pass rush. I mean, the Niners, I was like 3rd and 12, 3rd and 13, 3rd and whatever, and they were getting them like easy. And it drove me nuts. I was very disappointed. They have 2 weeks to really get it together. Like I said, they still played pretty well. The Niners didn't play bad today. They just didn't play what we've been accustomed to seeing, but they are human.
Yeah.
And other teams get paid too. So, what else here we got? I mean, the Niners are. I have it here. It said the Niners are still in for the number 2 seed. So pretty much, we went out. Philly doesn't. Or excuse me, Minnesota does, and we get the number 2 seed. At this point, I'm resigning myself to the fact that we're going to be the number 3 seed. I'm not really even thinking about it. Although I will say that watching the game, I was, keeping an eye on the Dallas game to see what was going on with the Eagles. In the most impossible scenario that somehow we get the number 1 seed, that would be the greatest thing ever, because this team, out of all teams, would do really good with a 2-week rest. I think that defense would come out and be all world with all that kind of rest. You'd have, all sorts of guys coming back, maybe even Elijah Mitchell, if he could stay on the field for more than 1 game in a row.
Here's what I will. Can I say something real quick about
Go ahead.
bye weeks? But the thing about bye weeks is, yes, for this team in particular, you could be like, dude, you could get Javon Kinlaw back, you could get all these guys back, even though Javon Kinlaw's already back. But I'm just saying, right? You could get some more of your guys back. They can rest up. Obviously, football is a very physical sport, so you definitely have the ability to get some of your players back even more healthy. Debo gets more time to rest, right? So bye weeks are great, but at the same time, not playing football and getting that bye week, once you come back, are you going to be rusty? Are you going to be ready to go? So that's the thing about, these bye weeks. I think the Packers were the number 1 seed last year, if I remember correctly. And they had their bye week, and you come off that bye week and you struggle and you end up losing, and the Niners even scored an offensive touchdown. Now, credit to, obviously the defense and what they were able to do in special teams that year and in that game in particular. But bye weeks are great, but there definitely has its pros and cons. If you can get your players to rest up, you can come back, you can get some of your players back. You can come back more healthy going into, that playoff game. But once the game starts, are you going to be rusty, or is your team going to be ready to go?
Yeah, I mean, there's an advantage to it for health, but at the same time, it doesn't promise anything.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes teams like I think the Baltimore Ravens had a bye week a couple years ago and they lost in the first game. So I mean, nothing guarantees a victory. But like I said, for teams that are always hurt like us and we play such physical football, I was sitting there with my brother, and every play is like a massive hit. I was like, dude, that's right there is why we constantly have guys injured, because everybody plays so violently all the time. But at the same time, that's the reason that we win. I said, but saying that to him, I'm thinking, man, we could really use the bye week. But at the same time, it is what it is. I mean, we didn't have it last year, and we came within 2 minutes of beating the Rams. I think if Brock Purdy plays that game against the Rams last year, we win that game. Jimmy was very hurt. I will give it to Jimmy last year in that NFC Championship game. Dude had a bad shoulder and injuries with his hands. So you think he's limited without any of that? You're going to see it. He's going to be even more limited. But
I only have one word to describe that: pain. Pain. Period. Just pain.
Brock Purdy's been playing with pain. He had a broken rib and a tear in the like the rib cage muscle. So he's been playing through pain too. So he took I would assume he took a shot of Toradol or something. But props to the 49ers guys. Not too much else to talk about. I told Amin, we'd be in and out of here tonight. Appreciate those for you actually who did show up. I had a feeling it'd be a light night tonight just because everybody's doing their holiday stuff and this, that, and the other. But for the few of you who actually showed up tonight, I appreciate it very, 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 very much. I'm sure Amin does too. Amin's going to be a little MIA for the next couple of weeks. Me and him on Friday. So the Friday show is going to be a little bit up in the air until I could find a co-host. I might not do it. I'm still doing the NWO on Monday and TED Talks on Wednesdays. But Amin's, he's in school. So, and he's got he's a young guy, so he's got to do whatever his family says. So, got to respect that. But I appreciate you coming on tonight. Sorry we couldn't do it last night. Like I said, with the holidays and stuff, I totally forgot. I'm asking everybody and their grandmother to try to come on here, and everybody's like, "No, I'm sorry, I can't." So I'm just like, But thanks, guys, for coming on tonight.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the kind words by Terra Dome. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, he is the man. All 15 of them, all 15 years of them. Thanks a lot, everyone, for coming through. I appreciate it. We're going to get out of here. Everybody enjoy your holiday and the rest of your weekend. And I'll see you guys on Monday. Amin, we'll see you in a couple weeks, just in time for the playoffs.
Yep, I'll be back for the playoffs.
I'll try to figure out how to get some people on these later week shows. And I'm just happy we got football still to talk about, guys. And we're not going to be going into the offseason like the Rams or the Cardinals. So
and we haven't talked about a loss in 8 weeks now. So
it's been a while. It's been nice.
It's been really
it's always
nice.
easier to talk and get energy when you're mad than when your team's playing well.
That is true.
All right, everybody. Have a great night. Everybody enjoy your holiday, and we'll see you guys later.